Let's go to Skip Minnis, who has a question saying, "Hi, Mike, love your ministry. What do you think Paul is referring to in 1 Corinthians 12:31 when he says to desire the best gifts?" Skip, thanks, man. Appreciate you being here. 1 Corinthians 12:31. Paul says, earnestly desire the higher gifts, or some translations put it the best gifts, and I will show you a still more excellent way. So he wants us to desire the best gifts. I think that the way he talks earlier and later in the chapter, we see what he means by the best gifts. Let me see if I can find a section where he just discusses this. In 1 Corinthians 12, earlier on, he's talking about how the purpose of the gifts is to bless others and to minister to them. In 1 Corinthians 13, he talks about the danger of having gifts but not being loving, and how you're basically pointless. You have all these gifts, but you're not loving. But later he talks about prophecy in particular. Here we go. Chapter 14, verse 1. Pursue love and earnestly desire the spiritual gifts, especially that you may prophesy. I mean, that kind of helps answer that question when he says desire the best gifts. Now, before he talks about the best gifts, 1 Corinthians 13 shows up and he tells you love is most important. Love is the key ingredient in any gifting. That's the thing you should chase after the most. But when it comes to like ranking gifts, Paul seems to rank the gifts based on how much they help people, and that's it. They're important based on how much they help people. Well, prophecy helps people. So he says, for one who speaks in a tongue speaks not to men, but to God. For no one understands him, but he utters the mysteries in the Spirit. On the other hand, the one who prophesies speaks to people for their upbuilding and encouragement and consolation. The very nature here is that, hey, when you speak in tongues, unless there's interpretation, it's a private experience between you and God. But prophecy blesses and helps others. Paul's rule is what helps people the most is the best gift. Prophecy then is lifted up as being pretty important. The one who speaks in a tongue builds up himself, but the one who prophesies builds up the church. Now I want you all to speak in tongues, but even more to prophesy. The one who prophesies is greater than the one who speaks in tongues unless someone interprets so that the church may be built up. So again, it's not actually that prophecy is better than tongues. It's that when you say things to people that they can understand, they're more benefited. When you speak in tongues, they're not. But if there's an interpretation, then the church is built up. So it's the same thing. Now, brothers, if I come to you speaking in tongues, how will I benefit you unless I bring some revelation or knowledge or prophecy or teaching? Those are all speaking things that are not necessarily prophetic in nature, but they're all speaking related. Even if lifeless instruments such as a flute or harp do not give distinct notes, how will anyone know what is played? And if the bugle gives an indistinct sound, who will get ready for battle? So with yourselves, if with your tongue you utter speech that's not intelligible, how will anyone know what is said? For you'll be speaking into the air. There are doubtless many different languages in the world, and no one is without meaning. But if I do not know the meaning of the language, I will be a foreigner to the speaker, and the speaker a foreigner to me. So with yourselves, since you are eager for manifestations of the Spirit, you guys want manifestations? Strive to excel, not just in manifestations, excel in building up the church. So do you get the idea that Paul's trying to move them from a focus on just having spiritual gifts to like feel like the Spirit's moving in their midst versus focusing on helping others? When they're gathered together, I want to bless someone else. I want to help others. I want to see the body built up. I don't need to have a spiritual experience. I want to see spiritual blessings upon others. Paul is moving them from being focused, I think, on a spiritual high to being focused on blessing others. And this is, of course, in the scripture, because churches that really focus on the gifts can easily move to where it's all about, did you get a special moment? Did somebody come up and call you out and say, God's really, his hand is on you. And even though there's no information there to help anybody, like that was the biggest moment for you. Does it turn into like, whoa, look at how spiritual that person is. They always have something to say. Or is it about blessing and ministering to others? That's how I would process that.